Hello, everybody. Welcome back. I've got one last Breath of Fire 3 character guide for you. This time we are talking Peco. I'll be honest. I think even though Pico is really good and honestly pretty overpowered, I never use him. I just I don't know. I think maybe it's the lack of personality for 99% of the game, but he is nuts. I generally what I do with him actually is I use him for basically just learning the abilities from the different masters, and so he always ends up really high level for me. But then I just never end up using him because I just don't like him. But here at level 58, and again this is with an absolute mess of masters. He's ending up at 277 power, 295 defense, which is absurd. 93 intelligence and 49 agility. So really not fast at all, but an amazing defense stat. Also a ton of HP with he's at 413 there. Again, I have no idea what masters I even used. It was just pretty much pretty much all of them. As far as weapons here, so let's talk gear. Dragon Fang actually is his best or strongest weapon. Death Claws though are pretty interesting. So these are found in the actually the Desert of Death, and there it says it's got the chance of an instant kill. That's honestly kind of interesting. Honestly, I mean, look at the power difference. That's not that much. What is that? 12 power difference? I mean, that's not much. I guess Pico would be good. There it says Dragon Slayer, so he's going to do extra damage to somebody like Tipo, but that's pretty situational. There isn't a whole lot of enemies that are, I think, flagged as dragons, or at least any that I feel like we really need to do any extra damage to. But I would honestly, I think Death Claws are probably actually his best weapon, and that's what I would use. Again, probably because of the chance for the instant kill. As far as his defense goes, or sorry, as far as his shield goes, it's the same answer that I always give. It's the protectors. I just think that these are the best. +2 to your status resistance or resisting to status effects. I think that status effects are the most dangerous or the biggest threat to your characters. Generally speaking, we don't want characters getting either paralyzed or confused is probably the worst, right? And then turning on the other characters. So I think that protectors are the best. For his helmet, technically, as far as defense goes, anyway, the UV glasses are his best helmet. And it also is going to prevent blindness. Now, it's questionable though if you really need that protection, and so probably your backup is going to be the Tiger's Cap. Yeah, kind of up to you on what you want to do, and also it's probably also situational. If you're going to be running through an area that enemies are constantly trying to blind you, then maybe you go with the UV glasses. But Tiger's Cap is all right as well. And I should say that the biggest problem with Pico actually is his equipment choices. There's just very little that he can actually equip, and actually his best armor piece is the amber breastplate here, which is going to, I think, add a little bit of fire defense. But there's just almost nothing here for options. So you got to take what you can get. And also, I should say, so he recovers HP every round. He'll recover more as he levels up and gets more HP, and that can kind of keep him sort of healthy. So at least there's that. But as with most of the other characters, though, a lot of how you equip him is going to be dependent on what you're actually fighting. So towards the end of the game, if we're taking on Miria, for instance, here. The amber breastplate, that can probably suffice for the protection versus fire. You're going to want to do like a ring of ice and then a thunder ring, right? So you can get, basically immune, or you're going to absorb 2 of the elements while taking quite a bit reduced fire damage. Now, if you're just running around though, you're probably going to like on the way, right? We're fighting a bunch of vampires and mist men, that sort of thing. Honestly, you probably want to do a double ivory charm. That's going to make you immune to status, right? Because we're going to get two status defense from the protectors, and then the other two from the two ivory charms. I don't love, stacking the double ivory charms, but Peco just really doesn't have an option. You're almost stuck doing this. He actually has really good defense versus death attacks naturally. I think he's already at a 4. So this will actually give you immunity to death as well by doubling up the ivory charm. Honestly, in terms of death type attacks, he actually only needs the single ivory charm for that, but I think that this is probably the best setup for him. If you need more ivory charms, definitely copy them at the copy shop. All right, so next up, let's actually talk abilities. So he gets basic heals, rejuvenate, which is kind of weird that he gets it says heals medium wounds on one target. So he kind of skips over heal anyway, and he goes right into rejuvenate, which is kind of funny. And then he actually also has purify as well there to remove poison. So at least there's that. I don't really use his breath attacks that much. So he's got dream and venom breath. I don't know, poison targets. Really, why? Dream breath is a little bit more interesting. At least you can put groups of enemies to sleep with this, and also this stuff is pretty cheap. So at least there's that. And then he does have fire and ice breath, so you can do a little bit of elemental type damage with him. And also, because this stuff is altered by his HP, and he gets naturally really, really good HP growth, he'll be set up pretty well. As far as other abilities here, let's take a look at the skill notes. Also keep in mind that I've got actually quite a bit of my skills on my other characters, but for the most part here, you're going to want to do stuff like Blitz. Blitz would be pretty good. Unfortunately, this is going to have his HP, but this can really pump out a lot of damage. Resist. This is kind of interesting because what I think that makes the most sense for Tipo is to use the attack formation and put Tipo out front. I keep saying Tipo, I meant Peco. Peco has a 50% reprisal rate, meaning every other, half of the time, he is going to, counter whoever attacks him physically. Now, the interesting thing, though, is that the attack formation doubles that, making it so that he will literally, anytime he receives a physical hit, he will use a reprisal or a counter hit. And so somebody like him out front with resist can kind of be interesting, right? Because he'll be attacking or being attacked a lot of the time, but resist will prevent damage, and that should still cause him to use some reprisals. And resist here is very, very cheap. The only problem, though, with this and using this ability is he's probably going to act last. He may not be fast enough to make use of this because, it's great and everything that it makes him invulnerable, but he's slow. And unless you're doing some work on his agility, you're probably not going to actually be able to make use of this. So keep that in mind. Ebb and Fire, I don't know. That's not great. That's really more for a caster. I don't know. You could maybe do a super combo. That's kind of interesting. Counter would be interesting as well, but again, the same thing though. If you want to use this, you're going to be, better. Optimally, you're going to be in the front row of an attack formation and being, attacked. The problem though is this is kind of redundant because if you do that setup, you're going to be, using reprisals anyway. And so even like in optimal scenarios, counter isn't really that interesting. Let's see what else. Mighty Shot, Purify. He already has that, so that would be redundant. Barrier, you could really throw like, barrier, shield, cure, I suppose, on him, right? A lot of these abilities, I mean, maybe not so much cure because it's not going to be as powerful, but something like buffs, right? Like, again, barrier, shield, that sort of thing, where it doesn't really matter that he has low intelligence. This is still going to be, pretty decent for him. The different elemental strikes I don't think are that interesting for him. Now, charge, though. Charge is really good on Peco. Probably better than, honestly, anybody else because he has such a phenomenal, defensive stat. And then, if you do something like, put fall on him, that'll be even better, right? Because he's going to get a ton of extra defense every time he levels. So definitely something to think about. Transfer may be another good one for Peco. The problem is, though, if you're just going to use transfer on him, you would probably really want to have a spirit ring, right, to reduce the cost of this. And that would really be just to keep Ryu, going in his dragon forms. But I don't think that that's efficient. I don't think that that's really, good use of turns. Air raid, I think he's too slow to make use of that. Gloom Kiri, I suppose you could set up a Gloom Kiri combo on him again, kind of like the other characters that I've brought up, right? Where you basically turn enemies into undead with Gloom and then you wipe them out with Kiri. The reason why that would work, again, is, and it's the same reason or same rationale as Gar. Kiri doesn't matter, it doesn't matter how much intelligence you have. If the enemy is undead, you will one-shot them with Kiri. So again, Peco would be a pretty good combo for that as well. These other, elemental type skills I don't think are useful. You could do like Steel on him as well, maybe Charm. I guess, I don't know, Focus maybe, and then like Aura, but I still think that those are actually better on somebody like, sorry about that, somebody like Ryu, right? Somebody that's, and especially because of his Kaiser form, has such a gigantic boost to his power. Other things, though, that are kind of good would be like some sort of like status effect type stuff. So like, let's see, where's the Frost Strike? I don't think I've got that here. It looks like that must be on somebody, but a Frost Strike would be good on him, right? So you could do a little bit of frost damage, but also potentially put the enemy to sleep. Evil, maybe Evil Eye, right? Because that can paralyze. But again, then you're looking at something that's actually vulnerable to status effects, and you don't get Evil Eye until the end of the game anyway. So that's a tough sell. Let's take a look at some of the other characters. I don't know. Chill would be kind of interesting, right? A little bit. It's probably not going to do it much damage, but you could potentially use this on him to lower your target's agility. That's probably the one thing about Chill that's actually more impressive. As I was saying earlier, Focus and Aura maybe, but I think that those are better on Ryu. Ward of Light raises defense and counterattack percentage. Now that's still probably good. The raising the counterattack probably isn't that impressive on him, unless you're actually not using the attack formation. But in the attack formation and him on point, there's no the counterattack percentage isn't going to do you any good, but the defense still will. So actually, Ward of Light is actually a really, really good option for him. Blind, same kind of deal there. Somebody like Peco, he's tanking out in front anyway, and he's probably not going to be doing much for damage, right? Because he's super tanky. But you can do other things like Blind, Snap, and Mind Flay would be fine. Thunder Strike, again, same kind of deal. Really, anything that's going to apply status effects with Peco would be pretty good. Let's see, what else do we have here? War Shout, kind of the same thing, right? He could be, he would actually be a pretty good buffer, even in that kind of like front, tank position. And then like a Shadow Walk, yeah, sure, why not, right? Put him, if he's in attack formation, he's out in the front, and already he's going to have a pretty decent bonus to his damage. So why not add something like a Shadow Walk? Influence, he's another great candidate for influence, potentially the best actually, because again, and I mentioned this in some of the earlier character videos, but if you're using Ray as Were Tiger, there's some important things to keep in mind with that, and that's that if Ryu basically if you transform, then you use influence on somebody like Ryu, and then you actually transform Ryu into a dragon, that breaks influence. Now that doesn't apply again if he actually if you transform first into Kaiser, then you can use influence, and that'll work. But that's not probably the best way to go about that. You're better off probably doing that on Peco. And the other great part about having Peco be the one doing the influencing is Peco is going to be really tough to kill, and so also if your character dies, that breaks influence as well. So again, some pretty interesting options there. Mind's Eye, I don't know. Pico's not he's not really going to be missing that much, so that's not that important. He's actually got about the same 2-hit percentage as Gar. Benediction, though, is actually a really good option for him as well. Again, Peco is a tank, and so it's actually it's entirely possible that he ends up being alive, whereas your other characters are dead. So that's again that could potentially be a good option for him. Kiri, again, already talked about that. The Kiri Gloom combo, I think that's solid for him as well. Kier, not so much. He doesn't have really the intelligence to back that up. Evil Eye, I don't know. Sure, why not, right? Throw another, ability that's able to, I guess, cause a status effect, right? Only problem with that is it's obtained so late in the game that by that time it probably doesn't matter. But all right, that is about it. Let's talk Masters lastly. Although I already pretty much touched on this. Peco is just solid all around, to be completely honest. A lot of this stuff, and maybe it's just because I don't ever use him, but I don't really usually put that much thought into his Masters because I think that he's so solid in really every way that I don't stress too much about really even where his stats end up. The only thing I will say, though, is that, and if you notice there, his his agility is terrible. That is really the biggest issue that he's got. And maybe that's fine. Maybe that doesn't really matter. But I don't know. So I think that, probably if that's the case, then Delonzo is a pretty good option for him. Reason being, so his accuracy is 90, which, again, is pretty good. It's pretty solid. You don't really have to worry that much about it. But this would bump you up 5 points more, and you'd get the power and the agility to go along with it. I mean, honestly, that's pretty good. But the problem though is that if you go this route, then you're not going to be doing as much damage with something like Charge, right? Whereas if you use Fall, Fall would go really, really good together with Peco, or does go together. I mean, I think that Fall is probably Peco's best master. Additional HP for all of Peco's breath attacks, the power, why not? And then the 3 defense. Again, he's the tank. He's going to be out front. He's going to be in attack formation. You might as well just stick him out there with Fall. There's a really good case to make for just going with Fall and leaving him on Fall the entire game. He will be an absolute monster and pretty much untouchable if you go that route. He'll be slow, right? There's probably no chance that you're ever going to see extra turns with Peco, but I think that this is a solid master. Probably, honestly, my recommendation is just straight up Fall. For me, in like every time I play, I never use Peco. I really just use him to learn all of the skills from all of the different masters, and he still ends up with a pretty solid, stat position, I guess I would say. Everybody else, again, here Giotto, I don't know, HP AP. He doesn't really need the AP. The HP is good, but that's not as good as Fall. Fall's stats are just so much better. Handara here, AP 1 and 1. Yeah, who cares? This isn't really synergizing well with Peco. Same with Emitai here. Peco just doesn't need the AP, and you don't want the -2 power and defense. Diaz is an interesting option, but she's got the -3 defense, so probably not something that I would recommend either. This could could boost his agility up, certainly, at least a little bit, but I don't think that it's honestly worth the reduction in HP and defense, because I think that those two stats are really his kind of core stats. Hayauchi, this is another option. HP 2, Power 2, Defense 1. Again, this kind of synergizes with Peco fairly well, but just not as good as Fall. Bias, Lang, Lee, Win. Again, nothing really interesting about any of those. Leden, not that great, but the problem, or the maybe the good thing about Leden is you get him so late that, again, most of the time you're already going to be done leveling by the time you're actually able to get this guy. So, or at least very close to it. So it's not like you're going to be like completely wrecking yourself, right, in your stats. The 2 power, 2 defense, 1 agility, 2. I mean, that's good. Those are good gains. The reduction in HP sucks though. Whereas the AP I don't care so much about as far as Peco goes. Mary Leap would be another maybe potentially interesting setup for him, right? Because he's going to get the 2 agility. There's a chance that you could actually make his agility kind of passable by using Mary Leap. The other benefit to her would be that he would get the extra 10 dodge. And again, I think that if you're using Peco, he should be up in front in the attack formation, and thus, looking at taking a lot of hits, and so being able to dodge some would be nice. So that's another potential option. I would maybe say that that's the second best master for him. I would rank the masters with number 1 Fall, number 2 Mary Leap, and then probably third would be Delonzo. Other than that, I think the rest of the masters are kind of like whatever. And again, as I said earlier, basically I used Peco just to learn all of the skills from not all of the skills, but the skills from a lot of the different masters. And this is kind of how his stats ended up anyway. So, gigantic amount of power and defense, and also HP. So, even kind of, not really being careful about my masters and leveling with, them, I still ended up with, I think, pretty respectable stats because Pico is just a beast. So that is it for this one. As always, I hope the guide was helpful, and thank you for watching.